Hi, everybody. My name is Miles Ward. I'm CTO here at SADA, and this is Cloud and Clear. It's a podcast that we have built to really help you unpack and better understand SADA's customers, what's going on in the market, how things are working in technology. I have a super friend, like an actual international superstar on as a guest today. One of my favorites. I get to use that label sparingly, but it's one that I reserve for only the fuzziest among us. Kyle Moschetto is with me. Kyle, you should introduce yourself. I'm not even going to take a partial stab at it. You do it way better than me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Miles. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. Hi, my name is Kyle Moschetto. No one can pronounce my last name, so I usually go by Kamo. And I am the Director of Solutions Architecture here at SADA, which is just a fancy title. Yeah, Director. Which is just a fancy way of saying that I have the immense privilege of leading the team of crazy, awesome super nerds here at SADA that help our customers figure out their hardest and most difficult problems. Super quick TLDR background on me. I was a U.S. Marine for 12 years where I built data centers in deserts and jungles and on ships all over the world. So I can pretty much tell you everything there is to know about running a data center you would never want to run in an actual business construct. I know many techniques for removing sand from server racks and things like that. So, very applicable skills in today's market.
Most of the time it was me removing tacos, but sand
it's
is
the
harder.
same. You just crumple up the shells enough. It's all the same. But that's given me a really interesting background because since I got out of the military in 2013, I have been amazingly lucky and privileged to work in companies that were very cloud forward. So I got to work for a big networking company that was investigating cloud technology. I got introduced to, AWS back in the day when S3 was still the hotness. And, Miles was there to invent S3, I think. But either way, I got to work in cloud. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing in the world. If I could go back in time and tell myself, did you know in a couple of years, you're going to press a button and get a VM and you're not ever going to have to swap a hard drive again? I would have thought that was like waving Harry Potter's magic wand, but totally. Here we are. And so I sort of wake up every morning to help customers figure out this cloud thing and use this amazing team of solutions architects and engineers that we have at Google to help solve those problems for customers and bring just a ton of value. So it's the best job in the world.
I like that Kyle thinks this is the best job in the world. I am proud to say I'm the one who suckered him into taking said job.
Both times, by the way.
Both times, that's right. So it's a particularly gnarly position. You have to imagine, right? It's being a doctor when your patients are doctors, right? Or being a lawyer in a law's office, or doing IT at a technology company. Those are tough gigs. If you're going to take the spot as being in charge of solutions architecture for the guy who started solutions architecture at Google Cloud, that's gnarly, right?
True story.
What were you thinking as you came in? Why have you set yourself up for this horrible life?
Well, that is your perspective. I think this life is magical. Although, the balance of this thing is always the last little bit that we're tweaking on a daily basis. But for those of you who don't know, Miles hired me as a solutions architect at Google Cloud proper before I came to SADA. I spent the last 2 years before SADA doing the solutions architecture job at Google Cloud. And they're similar but different in a lot of ways. And the reason that I came over to work for Miles yet again is I love helping customers. I love getting my hands dirty and building teams of extremely competent and awesome engineering resources and architecture resources who get to move very quickly, who get to dive in feet first for the customer and really help them execute these really difficult things. One of the weird idiosyncratic things about working at Google Cloud is that you're not necessarily enabled to go hands-on keyboard with customers for all sorts of reasons, both legal and regulatory and all these other things. So I got to talk a whole lot for 2 years about how to do a proper migration to cloud, or how to build a data warehouse, or how to do all these crazy, cool, sexy things that Google Cloud allows you to do. But my opportunity to actually, go execute them and see them through is significantly limited, because the solutions architect role at Google is very focused on helping the most number of customers and then publishing those resources and focusing on getting on stage at Next and sharing these things, which are all, dream job, awesome stuff to do. But it doesn't leave you a ton of time to say, I'm going to go spend 4 months working with this one particular customer and helping them go start to finish on this particular project. And I honestly missed that. In my past, I have helped numerous companies and led their migration to cloud. I got to do a giant exit from a soft layer data center with the world's largest URL shortener onto GCP, which is where I fell in love with Google. And that kind of like led me into this space. So this is the greatest job I have ever had, full stop, bar none. And I was a Marine for a long time. Just know that the love is deep on this because
that is deep.
It is never
I know
a dull
very
moment.
few Marines who would articulate that sort of alternative. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I don't have to go many places in terrible transportation stuff, but it's just in this job, there is never a dull moment. There's always something to figure out and to solve. And it's almost always something no one has ever done or no one has ever written down before.
Right.
Which might as well be no one's ever done it if there's no record of it existing and actually happening.
I love the XKCD comic where he's convinced that somebody has, solved P equals NP in some Blender firmware someplace, right? Buried in a home appliance, but it's not documented. So forget it. That's maybe is lost to time.
That's right.
You're doing a great job of articulating, what we were off trying to do in solutions architecture on the Google side. And, as the proud father of such a thing, it was very much the goal to make it so that the documentation was more applied, that rather than telling you all of the nuance and the details about the Legos, how about we actually put a box of them in it with instructions on how to assemble them into something that doesn't suck. And but if you go out to the market, Lego makes quite a bit of money in toys, but there are other toy companies that just sell toys that work and are fun, and there's a heck of a market for those too. So our gig is slightly different. You've got a bunch of kids out there that aren't very good at playing Legos. And so
that's a good metaphor.
And, they keep coming up with, increasingly Byzantine and terrifying contraptions made out of small rectangular plastic objects. And so our job is to sort of help them make pretty spaceships. How has the difference between the way that I laid out kind of solutions architecture on the Google side, for better or for worse, and what you really now, and this is one of the spots that's been most wild for me, is relinquishing, utter benevolent dictator for life, dominating control over the definition of the behavior of solutions architecture, right? I generally go Kyle thinks it's a good idea. You should probably do that. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. And for those of you listening along at home, Miles saying that he has relinquished control of solutions architecture. I feel like most days I'm constantly over here nope, Miles, I got it. Go away.
No, go away. Shut up. Get out of here.
We're going to be fine. It's just a very stark and distinct shift of what is the most essential thing to do. At SADA, we have we're very lucky in being able to say that the most important thing that we can do is provide the absolute most value to the customer and make them successful, which is wonderful. It is a freeing, mentally unburdening statement that we can make to say, do the right thing for the customer and all else will follow. But Google, a company with hundreds of thousands of employees at this point, I think, or something to that effect, there are 18 things that are essential all the time. And balancing those is actually a lot of mental gymnastics and a lot of competing stakeholders, I think, where, Miles, you had 100 solutions architects at Google that were doing literally the most amazing stuff that I've ever seen, right? People who were just alone and unafraid in the hinterlands of technology. All of those things make it a little more difficult to understand what the most impact that you can have for a customer is.
Sure.
I think to your point, right? We published a great number of things, hundreds and hundreds of things at Google that showed exactly how to do a particular element. And here, because we're not in that publishing pipeline in the same way, we're able to focus the vast majority of our time and effort into actual repeatable things that can be executed on behalf of specific customer examples. And that is awesome because it's not me in a lab creating a, Migrate for Compute Engine or BigQuery job or TensorFlow model or whatever. It's not me doing those things at a lab. It is on an actual customer engagement, showing reality of what it looks like to implement this thing, running into the real world roadblocks and all those things. And it's both infinitely more challenging and infinitely less challenging at the exact same time.
Sure.
But does provide a little bit more clarity of the difference between the two roles.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting with some super huge companies and senior leaders in those companies and being the one that they met after they had interacted with several solutions architects from the Google side. And they'd go, "Yeah, all those folks, they work for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, like you have a great team. That is a killer team. Those are smart people." I'm like, "Thank you. I'm very proud of them. They're exceptional." And they go, how much does it cost to have them work at my office for 3 months? And I would laugh roughly exactly the way that Kyle laughs.
You do not want to know, sir.
The answer is like, no, we don't, like, not just we don't have a price for that, like we don't do that. And it's been, a point of friction since the first day for me at Google. I'm the first customer conversation. They were like, "You're great. We want you on site for 3 months." And I said, "Boo, right. No, I'm not going to do that." And so having heard that, there's this like customer centric thing where you do what customers ask you to do, and you get asked for the same thing like several hundred times over the course of 5 years. At some point you're going like, I just want to do that. I want to get paid by a customer direct to go out and straighten out their stuff. And I think that that's a reasonable ask. It's not unreasonable for them to say, "Hey, you who wrote the fancy book that makes you sound all that smart, why don't you get out here and like roll up your sleeves and show me what you're really working with?" And I think having heard that request enough times, there is a subset of folks that are doing this kind of work who like that challenge, who want to go dive in and like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to go." Right? Like, I have to publish something that's generic and abstract enough to allow multiple people to take value from it. But yeah, I want to come beat up your stuff and make things work. And so those people, and Kyle as a core example of those kinds of folks, I find them very fun and very interesting, and they are good to have at parties, and they generally enjoy the things that I enjoy. So I'm happy to have been able to build a team out of friends of mine, basically, and the result has been, I think, very effective. Like for customers, right? If the whole thing you signed up for was, I want to go smack around customers and make it so that they're super successful, what has that worked? Like, we've been here for a while now. Like, any places you can tell us about spots where customers have had a shining moment as a result of hands-on?
Oh boy. Yeah, I gotta pick specific ones now. Put me on the spot. I like this.
It's tough.
I'm really proud of the sort of inroads that we have made with Google's new Google Cloud VMware engine, where they came out with this GA new tool to make migration of on-premises workloads to GCP that are based on VMware very easy. But like all new products that come out of Google, documentation is like version 1.0 alpha and probably needs a whole lot of stuff. And it's difficult to, find experienced people when a product is just launched. I think it's a very common thing that, like something goes GA on Monday and we're asked to talk about it on Tuesday at an expert level. And we're like,
well, by Thursday, the RFP comes out that says you need 4 years of experience in this thing.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I need someone with 20 years on Kubernetes. It's like, I can't invent a time machine. Right. Mm-hmm. But that's just one example where we've helped 6 customers now develop their own sort of configurations for this with a variety of different use cases. And when you think about something, and I'm going to physically and mentally put air quotes in here, as basic as VMware, it's not. But when you think about something as basic as VMware moving to cloud, right? It sounds, when you say it out loud, like a very traditional, simple use case that, how much change could there really be in that you're just going from one VMware to another? Well, let me tell you, there's a lot. And the way that people do backup and DR and security and networking and tunneling and using all of the native VMware features, we haven't had one that's a perfect match of another. And that's been awesome because it's helped our engineers learn a great deal about the technology. And it's a way that we can create, a repeatable basis for delivering this to future customers that's based, again, 100% on actual customer engagements, actual customer experience. We're also doing an awesome amount of work with Anthos right now on customers and developing sort of that next generation. We're building structured CI/CD pipelines that support not only Anthos, but, GKE, all the things, and GCE and GCVE as like a cohesive unit. We're building new security assessments for customers that we've just finished a couple of those this week on developing entire assessments of a customer's Google Cloud landscape. So we come in and have a 10-point security model that we analyze customers against and be able to tell them, you're great at this and you probably aren't so great at this. Maybe that's where you want to invest your time and effort. We just had to fix a really difficult problem with a customer trying to get some very specific blockchain-based technology to work. I'm not
Sure.
going to mention names, but
Hey.
it's really fun and kind of challenging and a different
Well, yeah.
tech stack than most people are used to. And, amazingly, it all comes back to the same stuff, right? Like container management is a thing. And also networking and DNS, you should probably not ignore ever in the history of time.
Yeah, so much stuff requires, turning on computers. It's one of
That's
those,
right.
one
That's
of those
right.
things.
And the last thing that I'll say is we've really locked in to a framework for customers that are exploring building data lakes and data warehouses on GCP. And the biggest concern that, customers come to us all the time, and no two customers are the same in the data warehouse, data lake space. Like, two giant retailers in the same exact vertical space will be light years different from each other about how they set this stuff up. And so we've, to Miles's Lego example that he used earlier, we've basically got the basic race car with the number 1 on the side of it, right? Like from there, you can strap a rocket to it and make it a really good race car, or you can put a submarine bubble on it and go underwater. You can do whatever, but we've really got a very, very reliable basic race car for customers to come in and really begin their journey on, the data analytics, the data on GCP, and how we've taken numerous customers from that pipeline all the way through a very mature, end-to-end ETL pipeline and ML model validation and building. It's been really fun and super challenging. We've brought on a number of solutions architects specifically in that space to come help design the future states of this. And it's just, like I said, it's never a dull moment. We get to play with the best technology all day and make it instantly effective for the customers.
Yeah, I think if folks are listening, what you're going to, I hope you're taking away what I'm taking away. One, there's a huge breadth of technology solutions and componentry that our customers expect from the platform. And as a result, the responsibility and solutions is it's enormously broad. And the other piece that I hope you're hearing that comes out of that for me is, how much of the work and how much of the benefit from this kind of advisory and counsel is about taking those first steps in a predictable and coherent and organized against rational best practices that have been borne out by actual experience in the use of these tools in a practical setting that I think make a big difference. We hear all the time, this is a bunch of, this is new for us. It's risk. It's a transition. I don't want my very first step to be on a landmine, right? And can you guys help and make sure that works in that way? And so I think, Kyle has done a great job of having a very pragmatic perspective for our customers, where it's not, how do I get you aligned to the marketing message, or how do I make sure that you're, you follow the pretty architecture diagram that Miles made however long ago. We got to make sure you're aligned to this, or it's just not going to be right. That's one of the spots that I hope folks are hearing is this, very, very applied, very pragmatic, very nuanced to the individual opportunity and customer creative work on their behalf. So, if those are places where where we're smashing today, where we're doing a good job and you feel like you've got a clear path forward, what's next? What feels like it's on roadmap, if there is such a thing, from such a dynamic and reactive group?
What isn't on the roadmap becomes a really critical piece of this. We're really trying to do some great stuff around. Let me back up slightly on this. We've seen a lot of trends that come out of companies that are looking to do this app modernization thing, right? Like I'm obviously wearing my "Do you even lift and shift" shirt today, which is always tongue in cheek. Do you even
lift and shift, yo?
It's always tongue in cheek because lift and shift is easy, but it seldom gives you the value that you're going to get out of cloud. And so we constantly kind of nudge customers in that app mod space and say, you should really go from VMs to containers and do things not in Bash.
Improve,
yeah, exactly. Have you heard of this thing called Ruby or Python? Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic, but we're really working to try and standardize ways to help the underlying infrastructure that companies rely upon to use their technology. So, a CI/CD pipeline. How many ways are there to build a CI/CD pipeline in the world, let alone on Google Cloud?
11.
There are. There's 11 billion, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when customers are coming from an environment where they don't have a really solid pipeline in place, or they don't quite even know how to do things like DevSecOps or, coherent testing, it seems like this insurmountable object to get over. And what we're building right now are ways where, whether you're on VMs or containers or even along like serverless cloud functions, how do you update those in a consistent manner? So internally, Google has this idea of X application development, meaning you can develop on anything all the time with the same pipeline. And we're trying to make a simple version of that for customers. We're also trying to really get beyond corp and the zero trust model that Google has developed, including their identity-aware proxy and all the rest of the stuff, as a really repeatable, consumable thing that we can provide to customers using, again, best practices across numerous success stories. And that's just more on the like cutting edge stuff. And then internally, how do we get really, really efficient at doing the lift and shift stuff for customers? What's the appropriate tool chain? I mean, we migrate tens of thousands of VMs for customers every year. We may hit that 100,000 mark this year. I'm going to challenge myself for that one. Yeah. 6 digits of VMs to GCP in 2021.
So many cores in the LVC.
So many. All the GBs, all the CPUs.
Yeah, that's right.
And so just nailing down those processes. I think another piece of this is our large enterprise migration strategy. We've helped a number of large enterprises, like many, many millions a year move over to GCP. And the question becomes then now, how do you standardize that so that when you go into any company, you have the general framework, right? I helped write the Cloud Center of Excellence white paper at Google around how we actually recommend you do this. But again, it's a lot of theory and it's not a lot of prac app and lessons learned and rules, which we have in spades at SADA. So we're trying to convert that into actual products for customers as well. The more abstract, the better too. I mean, CCAI is coming along with our emergent solutions team. We're looking into much more stuff around ML and AI and repeatable solutions for customers, especially across industries. So, looking at retail and marketing analytics and how to create the most repeatable processes that are based on absolute customer examples of success, not just marketecture, right? Yeah. And turning those into repeatable solutions that we can, just click to add.
Well, I think there's a lot of spots where, I'll give a metaphor. Like, my wife and I were moving into this townhome in Santa Barbara, 4 stories, right? Like super tall, had a rooftop deck. It was really fun, and I'm thinking about our furniture, and I'm thinking about the spots that it's going to go, and we're moving from kind of this flat house to this very vertical house. And so like immediately, I know how to lift and carry furniture. I'm sort of ogre shaped, and I know what I would do. I would pick up the furniture and carry it up the stairs and stuff it into the different places. So I'm like downstairs wrapping rags around the banisters and railings and stuff, because I'm sure a moving company is just going to come in and bang things all the way up my stairs until they're in the various locations. And I haven't even said hi to the moving guys. And they have already gone up the stairs, out the deck, and have parked the truck under the deck and have a guy standing on the roof of the truck. And so they hand stuff from the box to the roof, up the deck, through the door, completely bypassing my stairs in a hyper-intelligent manner of routing around the friction, right? And I was like, if someone had whispered to me 2 months earlier, what they're going to do is stand on top of the truck. It totally works great. Like, how much of my prep effort or sort of extraneous crap that's just utterly not useful in this new paradigm would I have not taken on? How much better an impression would it make of the overall process of moving generally? If somebody tells you it's not going to be so bad, they're just going to throw it over to the deck. So that kind of moving is one of those things that all of us do, at least several times in our lifetimes, right? But moving cloud providers, most teams, maybe individual participants, but most teams as a group have never done before.
Correct.
And will never do again.
That's right.
Because the tech is going to change so much and the team is going to change so much. It's going to be an utterly different thing when that happens. So the value of the moving company worth of advice that says we're going to go over the deck, that is so much more valuable and so useful for companies that are doing this stuff. That it's, I hope that the value is self-evident. And I'm really happy to hear from you, Kyle, that you're thinking through not only being able to, revise and refine and improve the accuracy of our predictability and consistency in some of the basic foundational first steps for customers, but also laying new pavement and expanding the art of not the possible, but the art of the predictable. For most of our customer projects. Not every one of our customers interacts with a solutions architect. It's just sort of like a part of the boogie. Like, what should they, why does somebody end up talking to one of you? What have they done horribly wrong to make it so that they end up on the phone with you? And then what should they expect as a result of an interaction?
Yeah, great question. So solutions architects are called in when the customer needs assistance in something related to the technology of cloud. So let's use a really traditional example of I've got this database on-prem and I want to potentially move that database to Cloud SQL, let's just say. But I don't really have a lot of experience with Cloud SQL and I need some help. So I need some professional services. I need, to hire some really smart people to come in and help me move this thing. Or to do a particular thing. You need to write some new code or build a new pipeline that helps you do something. But generally speaking, my team gets brought in when the customer has already identified that they probably do not have the skills, the time, or the effort required to accomplish the thing in the deadline, right? They may have plenty of people who are, smart enough to do this and figure it out or do this every day, but nobody just has people sitting around, especially in IT right now, that are just twiddling their thumbs waiting for work, right? Everybody is fully engaged in the work from home paradigm that we have, right? No one is bored. And so that's how you kind of get into contact with the solutions architect at SADA. Is our pre-sales engineering team identifies that the customer needs some professional services help. And one of my solutions architects will come in to help talk to you about what you want to do. And we target the skill set. If you're going to build something in the data analytics space, we bring in a data engineering focused solutions architect to talk to you who's done this before, quite frankly. And we want, to your moving metaphor, Miles, we want the very professional moving crew to come talk to you about what you're about to get into and explain, don't bother to tape the stairs. We're going over the deck. And yeah, that seems crazy, but trust us, we've done it like 100 times before. And that's generally how you get access to us, is just raise your hand and say, we're going to need some assistance to do this thing. Or even like, can you just show us doing it right the first time? And then my team will take it from there. Those are my favorite engagements, when we're like training and teaching customers how to self-sustain later on, teach them to fish in the classic metaphorical sense. That's the best. Lots of partnership, lots of teamwork, lots of value add happening when we do those sorts of things. And then, to answer your question of what a customer can expect once we get in the door and start talking to you, is we are super action oriented on the SA team. We want to move safely, but quickly, to help you do the basic things, right? Like kick the tires once, then take the scooter for the ride around the block. And then many steps later, I'll hand you the keys to the Lamborghini and you can go tearing down the freeway at 180 kilometers an hour, right? Like, why wouldn't you? But that's really the key element. Is we tend to find that customers come in and, they're like, we want to do this giant migration of all these VMs and all these databases and build all these pipelines. And they're like, when can we start? I'm like, well, how about we just move one VM, right? And build a foundation on top of that, and then make like 1 gigabyte of data move over, not the petabytes that you have. And that's how really our team likes to operate, is we're going to talk to you for hours if necessary to fully understand the problem. And then we're going to use the, human ML model of our experience to say, I think that we should do it this way. We'll give you a proposal. And then from there, we come execute. We bring our engineers in to help, do the work and put hands on keyboard. And the solutions architects are always involved in sort of a oversight supervision capacity.
Yeah, I think that's a spot where, I'll reiterate, there's a lot of misconception about what it's like working with a team that has this kind of capability. And, I get asked quite a bit by customers, like, what's your model? Like, do you do everything? Do we do everything? Are you, advice only, no hands on? Like, what is your thing? Right. And we go, yes.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Another part of that is they go, okay, fine, you do everything. Sure, whatever. But what's best? Right. And you go, well, let's talk about you for a little bit and figure out, where you're actually at and what your biggest, gaps and points of friction are. And that'll help, right? Like, there are plenty of companies that I've worked with where some of this has to do with getting to, Rudy Valdez, who's one of the fathers of this whole concept at Amazon. Actually, he was on the hiring loop for me into the role for solutions architecture. I asked him, what's the SA job about? He says, oh, it's about establishing technical credibility. And I always liked that answer a bit, but I always wanted to like deliver results as a part, as a function of having technical credibility, right? Like I don't want to be credible. I want to be impactful. And so doing solutions architecture at SADA allows us to be applied in a way that I think others have been sort of forced to be theoretical. But that drive means that for customers, what they actually need does vary. And I think it's a spot where having a more, it doesn't feel like a cookie cutter, doesn't feel like it's something that just sort of comes out of a package. Being able to carefully coordinate, like, some of this you're going to shadow us on, some of it you're tired, you just need us to take this ball over the finish line. Fine, we will do it. Like, a little more collaboration with customers as partners, as opposed to some specific saleable vending token of action, I think goes a long way in meeting them where they are and taking them to what's next.
Yeah. And I mean, from a pre-sales perspective, and we're talking about delivering professional services to customers, the first thing that we really focus on with everybody is, tell me what your actual business objective is here. Like, what are you trying to accomplish at the end of the day, right? Because if a customer says, I want to move this database, it's like, great. There's 5 ways you could probably move this MySQL database up into Cloud SQL, or run it yourself, or pay somebody else to run it for you. There's all these options, but what's the goal that you're trying to get here? Is it financial? Is it resilience and stability? Is it operational simplicity? Like, what are the actual business goals that you're trying to achieve? And then from there, we sort of plan into the right decision. It always helps us understand the why, right? If we know the why, we can help give you a good opinion. And I think that's maybe, if I have to really, really summarize it down about the value that solutions architects are bringing to customers, is that we are going to give you really well-informed opinions of what you should do. And we are basing that off of our many, many, many years of experience and the collective knowledge of our engineering teams, and, the understanding of what your business objectives are, in order to say, if it were me and my job was on the line, or my OKR was in threat of being achieved or not achieved, this is exactly what I would do. And here's the plan that I would do for that. That's really the value that we're providing, is to say, I get it, right? And just like what you said earlier too, Miles, there's very few people who have this experience of moving to cloud, even if it's one workload, right? Most IT professionals that are in this space are working for larger or medium-sized enterprises, that they have their particular thing that they are managing or maintaining or monitoring or keeping the lights on for the health of the business, or developing intellectual property and internal technology, that they're just never going to do this all the time. Whereas I get to be the moving company in the example who does this every single day. And I'll tell you which straps are best to, pick up a piano, and which pads we should use for the furniture, and why we should not at all take the stairs with your giant bed or whatever, right? And use that to be a trusted advisor for the customer. And, we are fully partnered with all of our customers. We're always here to help support them through a variety of support models, in addition to professional services. And it's not like we're going to tell you, yeah, you should go up the stairs, and then we're going to walk away and, not be around anymore. With all the professional services engagements, the solutions architect that is there to scope the deal is going to be there for the kickoff call, is going to be there for the closeout call, is going to be talking to those engineers almost every day to make sure that everything's going okay. And, just like if something's not, we parachute in and come help and put hands on keyboard and get stuff back on track. And that's the best part of this, is, again, everything is focused on making sure the customer is successful in what they want to accomplish. And we will bend our will to that problem every day.
Well, it's the root of the theory of the case, right? Why it is that we're approaching it in this way, as opposed to the other way, is that if I'm not there in the back half to see how this goes, I don't make my guidance in the front half any better. Right? I remember the thing that I told those other people the last time, they seemed to like it, so I tell it to them again, instead of, I remember a thing that worked, and it delivered the benefit we expected, and that's what I'm going to tell you about. So that's a big difference, and a place that I hear back from customers positive feedback about the way that this organization functions and the results that it's been able to deliver. You are not alone in this crazy journey. Like, how has this worked? Like, interacting across SADA and, around the different teams, like who have you leaned on the most? Who's been most helpful in the spin up for all this?
Oh boy. I'll start by saying, I don't think that I have just gone with the flow in my time at SADA. I have probably politely, I will refer to myself as kind of a wave maker, a pot stirrer, if you will.
We have a leadership corporate value called be a change agent. And I would say Kyle embodies this principle.
Yeah, if I was going to stack rank, that one would be at the top.
In a strong way, yeah.
And there have been a huge number of people that have been enablers to me in the most positive sense of the word that I will certainly shout out here. Number one is Chris Lehman, who runs our entire professional services organization, who, God love him, he has basically been like, Kyle, just go do what you think needs to be done here, and I will support you at every step of the journey. And he has given me speed of trust and been the best boss, no offense, Miles, that I could have asked for here in true partnership to make things better. Yeah. And then on the pre-sales engineering side, we have Simon Margulies, a incredibly handsome, well-spoken, and attractive gentleman who he's a stellar human being, who has really been working with me day in and day out to constantly balance these like two opposing forces of the pre-sales and post-sales. And for anyone who's listening who has worked in professional service before, there's always kind of this gentle tug each direction, right? Where we're constantly kind of like checking and balancing each other in like the best way, right? And I'm sure that it could be some contentious thing, but Simon calls me and says A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. And
I've been around and seen how other partnerships work, and it is typically a bloody knife fight full of extreme violence, and you two have the like most adorable kumbaya thing going on. It's so great.
It's pretty awesome. It is super duper awesome. And then on the other side, on the like execution side, the management and leadership team, Scott Vandenplas, who I found out after working here was literally my inspiration for getting into cloud like 10 years ago, between him and Miles, has been a great mentor and leader of the entire engineering organization. Sharif and Sarah on the project management and resource management side have become intense allies to me. And Noreen in our marketing department has helped in customer stories and publishing of blog posts and all these things. And just, I don't say this lightly. This organization is awesome. And the leadership teams that we have and the people who are responsible for the day-to-day health and well-being of both the employees and this business are ridiculous. Dana, our COO, is the most competent salesperson. You get him on a call with a customer in any period. He's so masterful. And at the same time, we'll happily deliver you a doctoral level dissertation on the P&L that we are meeting or not meeting our goals on in one way or shape or form, and make you like happy about not meeting your goal in some way. It's truly masterful. And then, of course, Tony, our CEO, is just the definition of a polite, approachable, professionally eccentric in the best possible way leader who just wants to be awesome and help add value to the customer, and will stop at nothing to do that. And it's so cool to have someone so driven leading this organization. So it's almost like, who do I not want to thank? But generally speaking, it's a super fun ride. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've had a bunch of fun, and it's one of those things as someone that's kind of early to the party, you're like, oh, this is a great party. Everybody should come check this party out. It's a lot of fun. And you're sort of hoping, like, you got fingers crossed. I like it, but I'm weird. Like, I hope everybody else likes it the way that I like it. And so it's been great when people have come in the door and the music doesn't stop. It keeps playing and everybody gets to boogie. Kyle, I really appreciate all the hard work and the transparency for the audience and helping them sort of think through what this is all going to look like. I don't say this lightly, because a big part of what I came to the company to do was to be able to make and keep these big promises for customers. And I feel very, very safe having you be the one that's executing in these high pressure, high complexity, high stakes scenarios with some of the biggest companies in the world, keeping some of my big promises to them. So thank you for the hard work and the tenacity and the focus on outcomes for them. Good job. Cool, man. Well, happy to provide it. And I will close out by using this metaphor to describe for everybody else listening at home is, if you want to know what it's like to potentially work in professional services at SADA, I want you to think about the complexity of any SpaceX rocket launch. We are basically about 5 feet off the pad, engines burning at full bore, skin in our face is being pulled back. but you've got a margarita in your hand too. And there's a little umbrella in it. The edges are on fire, but it's a good margarita. And everyone around you is like, woo, with that margarita at the same time. And it's the most terrifying, rewarding, amazing experience, surrounded by people who are also in that same exact rocket ship. And, nothing can go wrong. Otherwise, the rocket kind of explodes. But everyone is doing their job behind the counters and in the control room and in the shuttle. And I don't know, this metaphor is getting away from me, but you get the idea. It's awesome. And I feel incredibly privileged to be here and be part of this team. So thanks for having me on, Miles. And enough kumbaya. I'm ready to go help some more customers.
Yeah, forget all this talk and let's go build some stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
Kyle, thanks a bunch. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @Cloud&Clear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.